how did the church become non-essential? Well, it started way before a pandemic and some social distancing guidelines. For the Colson Center, I'm John Stonestreet. This is Breakpoint. Crises reveal much about us as individuals, our courage, our faith, our resiliency. They also reveal much about the health and strength of a community, a society, even a nation. Like that gold star or little yellow arrow on the map at the mall, certain moments in a crisis will tell us you are here. Last week, New York Governor Andrew Cuomo was asked during a press briefing why the coronavirus infection rate was slowing in his state. The governor said, "The number's down because we brought the number down. God did not do that. Faith did not do that. Destiny did not do that. A lot of pain and suffering did that." Now, to be clear, he wasn't asked about God or about prayer. He just said this. This was a "you are here" moment for us as a culture. After all, acknowledging God and providence has been a pretty common theme throughout our nation's history, whether through declaring solemn days of prayer and fasting in the midst of a crisis or a day of thanksgiving after. Today, it's more common for officials to just ignore God or any role that he might play in our world. There's a world of difference between leaving God unmentioned and outright denying he deserves any credit at all for anything. From miraculous intervention to strengthening medical professionals to acknowledging he gave some the minds to develop therapies and technologies. Even more telling, other than a few atheist amens, Governor Cuomo's comments didn't even make much of a stir. It's almost as if his words were the culmination of the last few years, when the "don't offer us prayers and thoughts, just do something" response to other tragedies moved from Twitter to media personalities to now elected officials. Cuomo's comments, even more than any open hostility against religion that we might see, reveal that a certain kind of secularism is now firmly embedded in our culture. Now, to be clear, this isn't the kind of secularism that takes Christianity or its claims about truth and morality head on, but it's the kind that dismisses and relegates Christianity as personal, private commitments, irrelevant to public life, and maybe even in the way. Despite being Catholic, the governor seems to believe that we live in a world where, at the end of the day, it's our efforts, our knowledge, and our will that will see us through this and any future pandemic. Though President Trump recently declared a national day of prayer for all Americans affected by the coronavirus, it's pretty clear that as a people, we don't really take God's place seriously in this world anymore, beyond being maybe a source of personal encouragement and maybe inspiration. We're no longer the kind of people who really turn to God in times of trouble. The growing conflict between churches and local governments only confirms this analysis, in my view. I'm thinking, for instance, of those people ticketed and fined for attending a drive-in church service while fully complying with social distancing guidelines, listening to the sermon on radio in the church parking lot with windows rolled up. And that was in Mississippi. Apparently, the mayor, like so many other officials we're hearing about these days, had signed an order deeming churches non-essential. Though he reversed course, thanks in part to the Alliance Defending Freedom, the Justice Department, and public backlash, the larger point here is that the church has long been relegated to the category of non-essential for so much of our lives as Americans, well before COVID-19. I mean, what else can explain the fact that in most states, and according to most judges, abortion is an essential service, but worship is not? Long gone are the Little House on the Prairie days where churches were central to life in American communities, when school, community meetings, festivals, local government all happened at the church, where sermons were printed in newspapers and pastors were community leaders. How churches became non-essential in our cultural imagination? Well, that's quite a long story. But let's just say this. The primary fault is our own. After all, if we think and talk of our faith as if it's grounded in personal experience only instead of universal truths about the world, if Christianity is described within our own walls as an alternative self-help therapy, well, then we haven't done such a great job catechizing our own people as to why church would be essential. C.S. Lewis once pointed out that people shouldn't become Christians to be happy, since a good bottle of port can do that. In the same way, Christians shouldn't go to church if there's nothing there that they can't get online or in a fun reading club or on a TED Talk or at an AA meeting. In other words, if the church is already non-essential to Christians, well, a pandemic will be more than enough to just make that official. For Breakpoint, I'm John Stonestreet.